I felt quite burnt out with what I'd been writing. And I just thought, I just want to write something that I want to read. And at that moment, I wanted to read crime, but I also wanted to read romance. My name's Emma Pignatiello, and I'm the author of Last Shot and Last Breath, which are out now with Penguin Random House Australia. In Last Shot and Last Breath, the story centres around a Italian wine dynasty in Margaret River, WA, and the story begins with the premise that there's going to be a murder tomorrow night at the wine estate, and everything sort of goes from there. The main female protagonist in Last Shot is Max, and she was sort of the first idea that came to me. I had a vision of this woman running, and I wasn't sure where she was running to or who she was running from, but she was running somewhere and she was screaming, "There's going to be a murder." So that was the first sort of idea. Max is actually an ex-cop who has been in prison for 6 months, and her backstory does inform her reasons for coming to the Barbarani estate to warn them about the murder. The Barbaranis are a Italian family. They are an Italian-Australian family. They are these winemakers who are the children and grandchildren of Emilio Barbarani, who was this sort of prodigy winemaker who came to Australia after the war as part of the government's push-pull migration scheme, getting men from Italy to come over. And he started, yes, this wine dynasty. It's the best wine in Australia or in the world, but they do have a rival winemaking family who live only 15 minutes away from them on another property in Margaret River, or in Bindi Bindi Cove, which is the fictional town, the Lamarcas, who are their enemies. I wrote these books because I love both genres of romance and crime, and I think I'd written 4 previous manuscripts. Some of them were fantasy, and the latest one that I'd done was a crime novel. It just wasn't working, and I wasn't quite sure what wasn't working. I was getting feedback on it, and now that I look back, and I think I realise now I hadn't got the voice right. It wasn't my voice, and I think it was because I was trying to write something that I thought I should be writing. And when it came down to it, when I sort of really thought about, okay, what am I going to do next? I felt quite burnt out with what I'd been writing. And I just thought, I just want to write something that I want to read. And at that moment, I wanted to read crime, but I also wanted to read romance. Both sit in the romance genre in bookstores, even though they are romance blended with crime. I'm trying to make Romcrime a thing. It hasn't quite taken off yet, but we'll see how we go. I am trying. Yes, my debut. Yeah, so fifth time's the charm. Yes. What I did was I gave myself permission to just write what I wanted, and write characters that I wanted to write, and not think too much about, but that's not like, the other books that are sort of in this genre, or in the romance genre, or in the crime genre specifically. So I think I wanted to inject humour into it as well. And I think that some of that did come naturally. Some of it I did have to put in during the editing stages. I definitely did have to edit in some more of the spicier scenes, sort of to make the book more of a romance, as opposed to sort of a crime with romantic elements. So that was sort of in the later stages of the editing to push that a bit more. So yeah, it was a combination of trying to sort of blend those two genres together. No, I'm not a full-time writer. I teach full-time. I teach high school, and I write in the mornings or late at night. Yeah, and on the weekends. Usually I like to have like exercise, like gone to the gym or gone for a run or a walk or something. I find that puts me in the stage where I'm like, my brain is working and I'm awake, and a lot of my ideas actually come during walking or running or whatever. There's something about the chemicals in the brain during exercise. But I I don't really have a ritual. It really is. I've got a 7-year-old son, and like I said, I work full time, so a lot of the time it is when there is time. So it's in the cracks quite often. Usually, yeah, early in the morning or late at night. I have previously shown, maybe shown family members or shown people within the industry. Like I did get a manuscript assessment of a previous manuscript. With this one, though, I was quite private about it. I'm not sure why. I think when it's at that early stage, it is quite hard to sort of, open open your heart or whatever, and especially when it's in that sort of very vulnerable new stage. So the first person that ever saw this was my now agent during an assessment at the CYA conference, just the first 3 chapters. So at the yeah, she is the one that will see everything first in its rawest form. But I know some writers do share it with writing groups, or some get feedback on each chapter. I haven't had that as part of my process yet. Potentially in the future, that might be something. But for now, yeah, just my agent is the first reader. Okay. If you had one day to explore any city in the world, which city would you choose and why? Okay. So I think I would choose Venice. I went there really briefly when I was 19, and I was only there, I think, for like less than a day. And I think it was part of like a tour sort of thing. So we did a lot of the sort of, I guess, obvious things. But there is just something magical about that place. And I think I've, like last year, I read The Venice Hotel by Tess Woods, who's a gorgeous WA writer. And reading that book just made me really want to go back. And yeah, so I think Venice. In 100 years' time, I hope writing will look like, I hope it will look like what it looks like now, where we've got people and humans writing. And I hope that, if anything, people will value writing and art created by humans even more than they already do now. We're at a very odd place in time where we're sort of standing on a precipice, I think, between humans and how we see and value art and creativity now, and I guess the possibilities that are coming out with technology. And I do think that we probably will have to go through a stage where we do see technology creating art. But I hope that what's going to happen is that we will see the difference between AI created art and human created art. And I think that I hope there will be a bit of a reckoning, and that in 100 years' time, human art is seen as something extremely special and precious, and something that must be protected at all costs. So I hope that that's what writing looks like in 100 years. I definitely wrote stories on paper, with crayons, but the first actual memory of something that I was writing was at school, and we had to finish a short story. So we read this short story, and we had to come up with our own ending. And I remember writing it, and we had to hand it in. And this was part of a library program. So this was back when teacher librarians were in, every school. Nowadays, it's very sad we don't have them in every school anymore. But this librarian, she was a very, very strict woman, very very high standards. And so a lot of people were scared of her. So anyway, I just remember writing this story, and I remember getting feedback from her, and it said, Emma, one day you will be, I know that you're going to be a famous author. And I just I think I must have been like 8 years old at the time, but that just stuck with me. And because she was, she was wonderful, but she was, really, really, really tough. And yeah, I don't know about famous, Mrs. Hayes, if you're still there, but I am an author. And yeah, I think I owe a lot to that little comment that actually meant so much to an 8-year-old. I think the authors that you read when you're young definitely do have that big impression. I remember Meg Cabot, who is probably best known for the Princess Diaries series, but she was an author that I think for the first time I when I was reading her books, I just got this sense like it was this real sense of voice and personality and how you can really get inside a character's skin, and that reading was it was the big difference between reading a book and watching a movie or TV is that interiority and that fact that you can become someone else and hear their thoughts. And she wrote, like, she didn't have a sort of specific genre. She wrote contemporary fiction, but she also wrote paranormal fiction and fantasy and crime. And I really loved that she didn't fit into one box. And look, there's probably plenty of other writers, but I guess, yeah, because that was sort of quite a those formative years when you're sort of, 12 to 14. And yeah, I loved her. I've written another manuscript that is I can't say too much about it, but it is another romantic suspense. I'm also dabbling with a bit of a romantasy. I did those previous manuscripts I spoke about before. 3 of them were fantasy. So this is a sort of new idea that I'm about 50,000 words into, and I've planned out a few other romantic suspenses as well. So always got something on the go. So yes, editing one romantic suspense and first draft of a romantasy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This has been fabulous. Thank you.